that's the utility it provides people, and the anonymity and the ephemerality are kind of features built on top of that make it very unique and give it a certain kind of flavor, or the conversation kind of a certain flavor, or the people who are drawn to it. But no, I really truly believe it. I mean, I think there are obviously more and more people being added to the internet every day. Just there are way more people using the internet today than 11 years ago, and and more of a mainstream demographic. But people are savvier now than ever, and so I think that I think there are a lot of opportunities for kind of interest-based communities out there, and and again, you see that in the rise and popularity of sites like Reddit and Imgur. You see that in 4chan's kind of continued kind of slow growth, but it's just continued kind of presence at its current size. So I hope that there's actually a lot of opportunities out there. I mean, I use 4chan every day. I don't really use any forums outside of 4chan, except for like specific stuff. If I have like a question about a certain like just a specific interest, and I'll usually end up there via Google, kind of like Stack. But so I think there are. I mean, I hope there are more opportunities for sites like 4chan. If it wasn't for 4chan, I would have met some of my best friends. Thank you for all the years you've dedicated. 20, 50, 65. Yeah, same. Me too. I mean, again, I've met some of my closest friends through 4chan, and yeah, I mean, it was well worth it. I mean, if you as somebody listening right now have not met somebody from 4chan, I highly recommend it, because despite the bad rap, and I said this in my news post back in 2012, kind of talking about why I still did 4chan at that time. And I pointed out that, again, a lot of my closest relationships are born out of either 4chan directly in terms of they were a 4chaner, or again, just kind of, related kind of 6 degrees of bacon kind of, butterfly flaps its wings kind of thing. I met somebody kind of indirectly through 4chan, but 4chaners kind of get a, actually, it was a funny Adrian Chen article back on Gawker in the day when we did the meetup at Barcade, and it was, again, late 2010, early 2011. And I think he was kind of almost disappointed in that, people, again, expected to show up to this meetup and, get just a smattering of weirdos, and everybody who showed up was like super, some people were kind of intense, but again, everybody showed up was super nice and like had a really good time together and drank and played video games. And I think, he was a little bit surprised or disappointed that, again, the people who use 4chan aren't these kind of characters, just as I'm not kind of a caricature, the embodiment of the site, which again is disappointing to people. But nor are most of the users. And so, most of the people I've met have been really pleasant. So if you haven't made 4chan friends, please do. And also, again, this kind of goes back to the Scientology stuff, but remember I asked the early Scientology protesters, the Project Analogy people, what's some of the appeal in this, and you, besides, again, kind of protesting Scientology and just having a problem with Scientology. But they would say, well, again, it's really a social aspect. It's an opportunity to meet people who are kind of like-minded, and it's hard to meet these kinds of people at school, at work, and so showing up at these protests gives me an opportunity. Once the yelling about long cat is long and protesting Scientology stuff is over, people all just go together to a pizza shop and get a drink, get a pizza and get a drink. And so I think for a lot of them it was the social aspect. What are some of the other political opinions, or I guess, I don't know why I'm just saying other, but what are some of the political opinions you feel strongly about 2015? I am very apolitical. I loathe politics. That's partially the reason you see, again, I've talked about kind of activism and stuff, and why I don't feel that any user really has the right to kind of drag the site into kind of fighting any sort of fight. And that's really why you see also over the years, and this has kind of upset some people, but we got involved with the anti-SOPA PIPA stuff, but otherwise I've never really used 4chan as again my own personal army, and that's, I think, a kind of a contrast to a site like Reddit, which I think is very activism oriented, but I've really believed in this hands-off kind of approach, and really just don't personally, again, don't have an interest in politics and don't want to be involved in politics. and have tried to kind of avoid using the site as kind of a pawn in politics, even when it's for things like the Soap and People stuff. I believe, the anti-Soap and People stuff I believed in, and a lot of the other stuff that's come out, the stuff that Fight for the Future has done, is kind of, and the EF have done past that, I also support, but I don't think it's my place to kind of kind of throw the weight around that is 4chan in support of those things. So, but outside of that, I mean, again, I'm just along for the ride when it comes to politics, and you don't really have strong opinions. I'd say I'm very centrist, if anything. If you haven't noticed, I'm very split down the middle and try to be very even keeled in almost every respect in terms of my emotions and interests and politics and whatnot. It's just very kind of split the difference and try to be as kind of relaxed and reasonable as possible. One post 2629 that got deleted had a question: why did the Jannies have to sign an NDA? So yeah, I mean, the moderator signed this a while ago, and the Janners had to sign it recently. But it's an agreement that basically says, and it was posted on the blog, the 4chan blog.4chan.org. You can read it yourself. But this agreement basically put into writing in terms that had already existed, which is for free. This is not a job; it's a volunteer role. There's really no expectations. We can fire you at any time. You can quit at any time. There's no set number of hours. I mean, again, just really basic stuff. The identity requirement was actually a big shift because they're not normal users. Again, people, especially the moderators, have access to privileged information, and so we want to make sure that people don't misuse that information, and especially regarding users and about one another, and again, orientation materials and stuff like that. Anything that's essentially not, and again, this has always been the case. We've said, it's nobody should know you're a janitor. Don't reveal yourself. Please don't share anything that you kind of come into contact as a result of this. Don't misuse information about users. Don't stalk or harass people. Don't give out their IPs. Again, you can only use this information that you have access to in the in kind of execution of your role as a volunteer. The identity requirement was, again, to kind of make people step up and really get serious about it. And then again, the content, so I've already paid myself, but the confidentiality clause. So it really just put into writing terms that already existed. And again, I tried to kind of make things as professional as possible over the years, despite the fact that it's volunteer based, just because again, users have this. It's funny because 4chaners tend to have this pretty. I mean, I think people in general have these kind of unreasonably high expectations for almost everything, but especially 4chan, and again, how it's run and all that. And we do our best to meet those expectations. And I think that making things kind of serious and professional is a good thing when it comes to the actual administration of the website. So 2633 kind of talks about the roots of 4chan kind of being steeped in Japanese culture and anime culture, and how, I'm still reading this question, but how, I guess, basically use referencing anime, or say posting an anime reaction image, or some kind, hopefully not avatars, those are against the rules, but basically anime or weeaboo stuff outside of A kind of gets shat on. I've already commented on this past, but yeah, it's like, I mean, those are 4chan's roots. And again, 4chan has changed really dramatically over the years, but it's still kind of, I think, stayed true to those roots. I mean, 4chan has, I think some of the reason that people get a little bit upset about it outside of say A is that when you look at the front page, I mean, there are a lot of boards that have to do with that Japanese culture. And so some people go, kind of fairly, they go, oh, well, you've got all these boards. Why do you have to kind of bring this in here? But going back to what I said a lot earlier, if you've been listening this long, again, Godspeed if you're still here. But how people it's kind of like an office building with a water cooler on every floor, and people want to kind of talk about their, if somebody wants to talk about technology, but they also happen to like anime, they don't want to be told to kind of go elsewhere to have that conversation, and so they kind of want to be themselves and be proud of their anime roots while still discussing technology. So I can understand why people, I guess, I don't know if that's even cross-boarding at that point, but, kind of want to have their cake and eat it too. And again, kind of post about anime on boards that are not the Japanese culture boards, and